Hello, my name is Cason. I'm a lecturer here at Universitas Islam Indonesia. And my hometown, though, is Seattle, Washington in the United States. And because we don't have too much time today, I would love to tell you all about American law. But I'm going to focus on something today. It's very specific, and I think it's also unique to the American legal system, which is our juries. So I want to focus on three things today. The first is how you become a juror. The second is, what do jurors do? How do they decide a case? And the third is some of the controversies surrounding the American jury system. So first, how do you become a juror? I'm sure some of you have seen movies and you see the people sitting in the courtroom in an American movie and the jury decides what's going on. And to become a juror, basically, as long as you can vote, you can be selected as a juror. So the same database that tells the government who can vote, that same database is used to choose jurors. So jurors are chosen, and there's also an obligation to, if you're asked to come to a jury, to appear in court. And once you appear in court, you will be given certain questions. Simple questions like, do you know the plaintiff or do you know the defendant? Things that may create a bias. And they may even be more complicated. Some questions, in fact, recently, do you own a gun? What are your political views? To try to guess whether or not you have a bias. Because the goal is to have a truly unbiased jury. People who will be fair, who won't look at the person as much as look at the law. So we have different sizes of jury. We have an 8-person jury and we have a 12-person jury. And once you're a juror, the second thing we're going to discuss, once you're a juror, you will be asked by the court to decide who wins and who loses. So the jury will sit in the room, as you've probably seen in the movies. The jury will sit in the room and listen to all of the evidence on both sides of the case. And at the end of the case, the judge will instruct the jury to decide who is the winner and who is the loser of the case. Now, get a little complicated. We have civil trials and we have criminal trials. In a civil trial, it's a plaintiff and a defendant, or a petitioner and a respondent. It's usually two private individuals who have brought a lawsuit against each other. In those cases, the winner is determined by a majority of the jurors. So for example, if 9 out of the 12 jurors find that the defendant is liable, then that is the decision of the court. In criminal trials, however, it becomes a little more complicated. So in a criminal trial, all of the jurors have to agree. So all 12 jurors must say this person is guilty, or all 12 jurors must agree that this person is innocent. And if they can't agree, even after spending days, hours, and even days arguing about guilt or innocence, if they can't decide, then we start over from the beginning. We call it a hung jury. And so in that case, the prosecutor basically brings the same case against the defendant. So as you can imagine, this is a very long process and a very expensive process. But it's something that we value as a constitutional right. And again, it's much more complicated than I can explain in 5 minutes. But the idea is, again, to have 12, this group of your normal American citizens who sit in a room and decide a case. And again, it's a choice. It's your right, but it's also a choice. Some people choose to have a judge decide, a single judge. Others choose to have a jury. Now, the final thing, the third thing I would like to discuss is some of the controversy that has arisen from our jury system. And to understand it fully, you also need to understand the long history of the United States, which has a history of racial bias and unfairness to certain marginalized populations. And one of the biggest criticisms of the jury system is that it's not really a jury of your peers. It's not really people like you. Oftentimes, there'll be a black defendant who has an all-white jury, or a young defendant who has an all-old person jury, or people that are truly have inherent biases but are chosen just because of the way the system works. And there have been a lot of cases where it's been decided, and people have decided that it's been unfair simply because of the makeup of the jury. And again, I just wanted to give a brief overview of the jury system and what makes it unique to the United States. Both our Constitution requires it. Different juries have different makeups and have different roles in the legal system. And it's still subject to some controversy. So I look forward to, hopefully, in a later discussion, talking to you more about the jury system, some specific cases that have been decided fairly and arguably unfairly based on this system. So thank you very much for your time. I appreciate your patience and look forward to talking to you more in the future.